The PlayStation Portal was one of those devices that I was really hoping would be great. As a PlayStation fan, this is one of those devices that I have been defending since day one, but after spending some time with it, I don't think I can do that anymore. This is the PlayStation Portal, and I am slightly disappointed. Let's chat about it. So this is the PlayStation Portal, and this is probably one of the most misunderstood and contrasting devices that PlayStation has released in years, with a bunch of people praising it, while others are wishing for actual portals so they can return theirs quicker. And honestly, from spending the last couple of weeks with this device, I can say I've honestly been on both sides more than I can actually count. If your environment is great, then the PlayStation Portal honestly is amazing. But if something is slightly off, then your mileage will differ. For example, when we first moved into our new place, the only router we had was this one. It only has a 2.4 GHz connection, and the connection between all of your devices aren't really stable. So while actually testing the PlayStation Portal on this network, it was actually horrible. The quality would always drop and it would go from sharp to fuzzy and sort of go back and forth while I'm streaming. But then it would also slightly disconnect every now and then, which was more annoying when it did that compared to like completely disconnecting. As when it slightly disconnected, I would just lose all ability to just provide inputs. So if you're playing a story-driven game, your character would just sort of stand there and do nothing. If you're doing a racing game, you get the point. You would just sort of lose all of the inputs. And then about 3 out of 4 times, I would just not be able to connect the portal to the PlayStation itself. So when I would start both of them up, it would just say it can't connect. Then I would have to restart either the PS5 or the portal to be able to connect them to each other, meaning that I wasn't able to use it at all. So during this time, the PlayStation Portal was just something that I wasn't able to use and something that I wouldn't recommend at all. Now, where all of this got really annoying was in games where input lag could mean the difference between winning and losing. For example, fighting games and racing games. And while playing games like the Crew Motorfest, I would oftentimes just have to either restart the race because I was just flying straight off the track without being able to turn, or if I was playing online, I would just have to accept the fact that I just lost that race because I can't really restart in those. But even though when the PlayStation Portal is running perfectly, I wouldn't actually recommend that you play fighting games, shooter games, or even racing games on the PlayStation Portal, mainly because you are introducing a sort of lag by just using the portal itself. So if you are looking to play these titles a little bit more competitively, I would just recommend not using the portal at all for those, and mainly just using it for, let's say, casual gaming sessions. Now fast forward to me actually setting up our 6G router, and I love the PlayStation Portal. Now ever since I made the change from the router we had when we moved into our 6G router, I've found myself playing more on the portal than I actually did on my TV itself, just because it allows me to actually lie down on the couch while I'm actually playing, which for me is a little bit more comfortable than sitting in a chair in front of a TV or sitting far away from the TV if you're on the couch. And I also think it's mainly because our generation grew up with handheld gaming anyway. So I grew up with Game Boy Advances, PSPs, all these sort of handheld gaming consoles. So that sort of gives me that same nostalgic feel of being able to carry your games wherever you are and just sort of lounge and enjoy your games without any sort of connection between a TV or another monitor on a desk or anything like that. Now, I did have a ton of fun playing a bunch of different games over the last couple of weeks, ranging from story-driven games to racing games, and I honestly had the blast using this device on all of them. Now, I honestly did have a better time playing this on more story-driven games like God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, the new Prince of Persia. So all of these sort of games, I had a little bit more fun, but also use this to play games like the Crew Motorfest, which I used to sort of casually play week in and week out to get my weekly rankings up. But then for the more serious races, I would still connect to my TV. So I did actually use my TV every now and then, but for 90% of the time, I actually used the PlayStation Portal instead of the TV. Now for me, the PlayStation Portal itself is a really good looking device. It is definitely one of the most comfortable handhelds that I've tried to date, and the battery life honestly blew me away. But honestly, it isn't that big of a surprise since it isn't running any of the games locally, it's just streaming those devices, and the only thing it needs to power is the display itself, and then of course the controller as well. Then the display on the PlayStation Portal also looks really good. The display resolution itself isn't really that big of a deal, mainly because of the size of the display itself, and the only main big thing that I might have wanted to change with the PlayStation Portal is actually to move up the display slightly higher. I would think that might be slightly more comfortable, but for the most part, I actually enjoyed using the Portal, and the display itself and everything just works really great, and it looks really good as well. Now, even though I really enjoyed the PlayStation Portal once I had everything sort of set up and had the sort of perfect ecosystem for it, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. So the first thing is that even though you can use the PlayStation Portal away from home, your mileage will definitely differ depending on what connection you are connected to. And then for most other connections, you might not actually be able to use the PlayStation Portal while you're away from home. And that reason is because it doesn't actually have an internet browser. Now, why this is important is most hotels, airports, malls, or wherever you may find yourself outside of your home actually require you to sign into their network to be able to use their network, meaning that you need to be able to have an internet browser, and because the PlayStation Portal doesn't have one, you're sort of left without being able to connect to the network, making the device useless. Now, on this point, I also wish there was a way that you can connect the PlayStation Portal directly to your PlayStation and not rely on sort of a Wi-Fi network speed. You could just sort of connect directly to the PlayStation and get the best speeds possible. But that is sort of a thing for, I guess, another video, or hopefully for a V2 of the PlayStation Portal 2. Secondly is the power problem, and in South Africa we do have this thing called load shedding, but everywhere else in the world, if you don't have stable power delivery to your house, then this could also be a problem, since you actually need your PlayStation 5 to be powered and running to be able to use the PlayStation Portal. So if the power dips, then of course you won't be able to play any games on your Portal as well. Now, of course, you can still arrange the times that you actually play on your Portal around the times where you actually have electricity. But if you wanted to be able to just sort of pick up the Portal, turn it on, and just connect directly to your PS5, that will definitely be a problem, because then you'd actually have to leave your PlayStation 5 in rest mode, which you won't be able to do if your power keeps tripping every now and then, because then it will just actually turn off your PS5, and it's not really good for the health of your PS5 either. Now, of course, there are ways around it. You can get yourself a portable power bank and connect your PlayStation 5 directly to that to ensure that you always have power connected to your PlayStation 5, and then you can always just leave it in rest mode and then connect it to your PlayStation Portal wherever you need it or want to. And then of course you can also just connect it to your PlayStation 5, so even if you have power outages, you can then just power the PlayStation 5, and then instead of having to power the PS5 plus a TV, you just sort of power the PS5, and then you can play all of your favorite games still on the Portal itself. Now for me, I absolutely love the PlayStation Portal, and there's probably a bunch of different reasons for that. One is mainly because I am a big PlayStation fan. I love anything PlayStation releases, and I'll probably defend it till the day that I die. But then secondly, I just think I love new tech and new things cool. So anything that is new, that is exciting, that's sort of pushing the boundaries, even though this isn't really pushing the boundaries all that much, is exciting for me, and I think that in itself makes me excited about this. And even though I really love the PlayStation Portal and I love using it, I still think that the PlayStation Portal isn't meant for the majority of PS5 owners. I think it's really for the minority. Probably like 10 or 20% of PS5 owners will actually really make use of the Portal, or actually really enjoy using the Portal. And it is sort of a big use case scenario. Is it something that you can make use of really? For example, I usually take the thing of, if you have one TV in the living room and your PlayStation connected to that, and you have a wife or children or whatever, and they want to be able to watch TV, but you still want to be able to play your PlayStation games, then this is a great option for that, because you don't actually have to go and buy a different setup or sit somewhere else. You can just sit on the couch, play your games, and everybody else can still watch TV. But for me, I really had an amazing time using the PlayStation Portal, and I actually found myself reaching for this more than I did the TV remote, which was also a big surprise for me as well. So should you actually go out and buy the PlayStation Portal? And for me, I think this is really something that you need to think hard and long about. Do you think that you need a device like this? Do you have a TV with multiple people watching on the TV occasionally, to the point where you don't actually get time to play on your PS5, and something like this would really make the difference? Or would it just be better to actually go out and just buy another TV for another room, or just a monitor for your desk, and just play your PlayStation games on there? All of these are things that you actually need to consider before thinking of picking up one of these for yourself. But then there's also the other elephant in the room called the PlayStation Remote Play app, which allows you to play your PlayStation 5 games on your smartphone device. So in most cases, if you have sort of a slab-like or a plus device, then you do have a device that has a sort of similar size screen to the Portal itself, but then also you have the ability to connect a PS5 controller to your smartphone as well. So you can use this as a screen and still use your PlayStation 5 controller to play PS5 games on your smartphone device without needing to actually go out and buy or spend any money to be able to do that. Now, I do have to be honest that the PlayStation app on the phone isn't all that great, and for me, I wasn't able to actually remove the buttons that they have at the bottom of the screen. So even though it did work and it is able to run off of a PlayStation 5 controller and your PS5 and it runs smoothly, it isn't as ideal or as good looking as the PlayStation Portal itself. But it is something to think about. But these are all things that you need to consider before you actually go out and buy a PlayStation Portal. But for me, I actually enjoyed it that much that I might actually go out and pick one up for myself. But only time will tell if I actually do pull the trigger on actually getting one of these. But yeah, and then until next time, cheers.